I found it amusing when you said your favorite superhero is Deadpool, and I don't know how big you are into the superhero genres. I know you and I have talked about it, and I know I've met a lot of MCU fans with my high school games, and even with Tia Elbert, we had a good chat about it because her boyfriend had her watch everything from start to finish in the order it was released so she could understand the connectivity. You're the first that I've met whose favorite is Deadpool. I get a lot of Iron Man, Captain America. Deadpool makes sense to you, but still, like, what led you to Deadpool?
You know what's crazy? I really loved the Iron Man movies at first. Really, really loved the Iron Man movies. I'm a fairly late Marvel fan. Maybe I wasn't like the very there at the very beginning. I actually don't recall ever watching the first Captain America movie. I think it's boring, but Deadpool, I don't know what it was about that movie. It was Ryan Reynolds. It was Ryan that connected me to that movie. I've loved him as an actor for the longest. And so, when I found out that he was playing the character of Deadpool, I'm like, okay, like I'll go see the movie because Ryan Reynolds is in it and it's Marvel, so who the hell wouldn't? And I ended up loving that movie, and I loved his character. I loved how funny he was, and I'm a sucker for comedy movies. Me and my girlfriend argue about that all the time. When I'm deciding on a movie, she'd rather watch literally drama or a documentary, and I'm like, can we put on like Deadpool or something? And she's like, no, And so I'm a very action-packed movie kind of person, and so Deadpool had it all. It had absolutely all, and it even had even like the sad kind of storyline behind like why he is Deadpool. And so I think that they oftentimes we imagine comics and books and these things that turn into movies, like we literally see them in our minds as who we want to play them, and Deadpool is the perfect example of, wow, you guys got the casting exactly how I expected. You guys did the damn thing, There's a lot of movies and shows out here that like the casting just isn't right all the way, but Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, hats off to you, man. Love that man.
Well, he wanted to play that character for years, and you probably heard the backstory on how like the test footage got leaked and how it led to this. And I'm not going to lie, it turned me into an instant Ryan Reynolds fan. I knew who he was, but when I got to see him basically play himself, I'm like, now I know why I wasn't warm to him at first. And then I saw some of his earlier work, and he was the reason that I went out to see the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie, because I'm going like, Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu? Okay, I'll go with this.
Can't disappoint. He cannot disappoint. Great actor, and he's Canadian, so it makes sense.
Yes, I think he even said, as a Canadian, they hold master's degrees in apologies, and just I could see why you identify with Deadpool, because it was just an example. It's an exaggerated version, so I don't recommend you go out on a murderous rampage against anybody, but that you can play yourself. And Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, same principle. You can play yourself and make it work. And I guess I'll out myself as a nerd. I saw the first Iron Man in theaters when I was in college, but I didn't know it was going to turn into the world's most expensive TV show. So I left before the post-credit scene. I didn't know there was one. We didn't. There was no expectation at the time.
At the end. You always have to stay at the end.
Right. Well, we didn't know that back then. That wasn't common. But I grew up on Star Trek, Star Wars, and so I'd heard about Iron Man, and of course you knew about the big Marvel properties, X-Men, Spider-Man, but then Iron Man comes around. I'm like, yeah, I'll check it out. Then I was hooked, and yeah, I've seen just about every movie in its release. So I don't know who the bigger nerd is between you and I, but yeah.
We might go hand in hand here. I don't know. I know a lot about Marvel. I'm still, a little shaken, a little shook by the Tony Stark death at the end of Infinity War and how all that played out. Still a little mad at Quill. I'm actually really pissed at Quill, So, I'm just, I'm very invested in Marvel. I'm sad, about Stan Lee. Rest in peace to that awesome man as well. It's like, wow, he created a franchise that, change the world. You could look at the world now and you're like, well, Infinity War doesn't seem too far off, huh? But it's like, wow, it's crazy. It's crazy. Marvel really is a great movie series to really watch and dive into. And like, I mean, honestly, just step out of your own element, own world, and imagine yourself as one of those characters. It's kind of fun.
So I had a more cynical take in Infinity War, but I was aware about contract statuses. So I knew like when they did the cliffhanger, it's like, okay, they killed everyone off who's still under contract. They're going to come back. And so I'm like, let's see what Endgame does, because I'm like, if this just sets up for a cheesy comeback, I'm going to be disappointed. No, like I saw Endgame and then it's like, boom, my opinion about Infinity War or even Age of Ultron, which I wasn't so hot on. I'm like, all these other movies just elevated because Endgame had one of the best payoffs I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And so being an Iron Man fan, it made sense for Tony Stark's character arc to end at that point. But I was still sad because of all the buildup, but it exemplified his growth, where he was this hotshot playboy, you know, the likable a-hole, and you kind of saw it in the first Avengers, and it played out again in Endgame, that more selflessness that took over his mindset, and how that left its own repercussions with Spider-Man Far From Home. And I brought this up with another guest of mine. I wonder, it's like just how much things would suck if this pandemic had happened a year ago. We would have been stuck on this Infinity War cliffhanger for who knows how long.
We wouldn't have been able to see the end. Oh my gosh, you're right. I never thought about that. You know,
you'd still be pissed at Quill.
Yeah, I'd still be pissed at Quill. You know, it's like, I was asking Gabby the other day, I said, can we start another TV series? Like, is there anything else, going on? We actually binge watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians for the first 2 weeks. I don't know if you've seen a couple of my tweets, referencing them and that family. And actually, it's funny. If you watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they're not as bad as a family as the media and things make it seem. It really puts into perspective how the media can control the narrative. And so it's funny, like watching that show and then, watching the Michael Jordan documentary, and then, then we were like, okay, what's another show we can watch? Okay, let's watch Ozarks or something, And it's like, I'm like, when is there something else that we can watch? When is Euphoria coming back out? And they're like, well, I don't know. We'll just wait till this pandemic and then people can start filming again. I'm like, wow, all of these things really are at a standstill, It's not just, the restaurants that we can't go to. We can't even like see movies because they can't create them. And I'm like, man, this is really this is real. This is real. Who would have thought? Live through a pandemic, huh?
I said this, I don't know how much you follow my tweets, but I said the next time someone asks me for like a 5-year, 10-year plan, it's like, yeah, remember COVID? It's just to me, and I'm not saying that as, we shouldn't have goals and strive to achieve them, but it's just a reminder that we don't have as much control over things as we like to have. And even with the best of intentions, things will happen outside of our control. How do you handle that? And I'm not going to lie, I'm not where I want to be, and that frustrates me as far as my broadcasting career, and I would love to be in a bigger position than I am now, but this pandemic is just a reminder that, hey, there's a world out there, and we just are going along for the ride.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. It's but once again, the people that will come out on the other side of this pandemic, it'll be interesting to see how they grew as well, and the mindsets and how you were supposed to probably grow your mind during this quarantine. Because I'd be lying to you if I said part of me didn't go a little crazy for a little while, like what the hell, I kind of want to go home, and then there was like a grounding moment, like, hey, you cannot rush a pandemic, you can't protest, literal disease or a sickness or an illness. You can't, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, taking it stride by stride, listening to the guidelines, and stay at home so we can get this thing over with and everybody can continue their lives and continue to grow and be successful people.
Now, since we're on the topic of pop culture, I had your teammate Coco on a prior episode. I'm wondering who's the bigger fan of Spongebob Squarepants, because that subject came up.
Well, between the two of us, I'm gonna say it's definitely equal. There's not an episode neither one of us will say, like, I can say it and scream it across the field, and she can scream back what Patrick or SpongeBob's answer was in that exact episode. So, we actually got the nickname of being SpongeBob and Patrick, on our basketball team. Shay actually gave us that name, Shay Hollie. And so, that has been like, you never understand how many memes, SpongeBob-worthy memes you have in life until you watch SpongeBob. So I'm an advocate for SpongeBob too. I don't care what people say. SpongeBob is a great show.
Now, are there any shows or memes or movies, anything, even though your girlfriend is more into drama and documentaries, is there anything from her selection that you become hooked on?
Documentaries, just alone. Like, I remember just looking at her, and actually, drama too. I've watched a number of movies. She's gotten me to watch a number of movies that, have completely shaped my vision. Changed things for me. Like, you look at, we watched Fight Club for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, why are grown men just fighting each other? And this is supposed to feel good? What? So we've dove into quite a few different things. So actually my new thing now is listening to podcasts. So she listens to podcasts all the time. So whereas I'll be listening to music on the loudspeaker, she's listening to a podcast. And so, I started to dive into that and got into a couple of different ones. I listened to Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, I believe that's his name. Talk to different athletes. I just watched the one with Steph Curry. I think that's the most recent one too. I've listened to those podcasts. There's a couple other ones that she listens to that I listen to as well, and a lot of mic'd up things. So, I'm not very receptive to her, when she wants to put a certain movie on, because I'm like, you want me to fall asleep in the first 5 minutes? We need some action in this movie. I don't know. I don't know if I can watch Titanic again, I've seen the movie so many times, but we don't share the same movie selection, but I've watched quite a few movies she's gotten me to watch.